Welcome to Make Something with me, David Picciuto, where every week I show you a new project or technique to make you a better woodworker. And today I'm going to show you how to make this table base with aprons and added support. And I'm going to show you how to make these big beefy legs out of 3/4 inch material. Check it. To make this table really easy, I have all the boards on here the exact same width. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut everything over here in the table saw. So now that we have all of our boards ripped to width, we're going to cross cut the boards that we're going to use for our legs. I'm going to make them a little bit long so we can cut them down to size at a later step. In my design here, I have a really thick, beefy leg. We don't have boards that thick. So I'm going to take 4 boards and make a wood tube-like thing with miter corners. So now that we have all 16 pieces cut, we're gonna cut a 45-degree miter on the insides of all these pieces so we can make that wood tube to get a nice, fat, beefy leg. We'll do that over at the table saw. So now all of our miters are cut. I have one leg here. We're going to put glue in the miters, and to make this easier, I'm going to use pin nails to hold it together while the glue dries. So we'll get one section up like this. We'll throw a few pins in there. We'll get the other section up like so, and then we'll glue the two halves together. There's one leg, we'll let that dry. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna round over all the corners here at the router table. You don't need a router table, you can just use a router if you want. You can also use a hand plane and sandpaper. One thing you might wanna look out for, if you use pin nails, don't use your good bit. So because we didn't use clamps when we glued these up, you're gonna have some tight joints and then you're going to have some with a crack in there. I can throw this on the inside of the table where it's not seen. You can also fill that up with glue and sawdust, which is what I'm going to do. Let's take that sawdust and rub it in there. And then taking a screwdriver and burnishing the two pieces together. Probably don't want to use a good screwdriver. The next thing we're going to do with the miter saw is we're going to clean up this end and then we're going to chop it to length. Over at the router tables, we're going to put a little chamfer along the edge so when the table moves on the floor, it doesn't catch and chip out. All right, so next we're going to cut the 2 long pieces and the 2 short pieces for the apron over here at the miter saw. So we are going to attach everything with pocket holes. All the apron pieces are going to be attached to the legs with pocket holes. I've got the big Kreg K5 jig here, but you can also use the little one if that's what you have. So the first thing I'm going to do is clamp this up. Make sure you're putting the pocket holes on the side that you don't want facing. It is now time to start assembling this table up. I got my 2 legs and the apron here for the end, and it's just going to attach like that with pocket hole screws and glue. I don't want the apron on the face of the legs, so I'm just going to lift it up. I'm going to use some spacers here. So it sits about a 1/4 inch back, and we'll clamp that up really tight and then run some pocket hole screws in there. Got that nice and tight. I want to make sure everything is flush up at the top. And we can drive our pocket hole screws. Always get your screw started first. Rub a little glue on there for good luck. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the corner pieces to have a little bit more support here. So we'll have a board with 45-degree miters and run them on each one of the corners, and then we'll have a little middle support as well. Close enough. We have our pieces cut. We're going to drill pocket holes in here, and I'm just using my pocket hole jig. I will say that I did move the collar up on my bit just a little bit because these pieces are going to go in at an angle, and I don't want the screw to blow out the other side. So I'm drilling a shallower hole. We're just going to glue and screw these into the corner. Now, the very first one that we made was a really short one, but we found that there was not any room to get the drill in there. So we have to make them a little bit longer. So keep in mind when you make those supports that you want to have room to get your drill in there. All right. That is plenty sturdy. These guys added a ton of strength. It's super stable now, and when we attach the top, it'll have even more strength. And to finish this off, we're just going to put a few coats of wipe-on poly, just like we did for the top. All the wood for this table, including the top, came from my friends at Kencraft. You can visit them at kencraftcompany.com. They're located here in Toledo, Ohio, and they do sell online. Please check them out. I do hope you picked up a few tips on making this table base with pocket hole joinery and making those big beefy legs out of 3/4 inch material. I attached my top to the base with pocket hole joinery. That is not a typical method, and maybe not the method I suggest to you, but my top is in 2 different sections. The reason for that I explained in the tabletop video, and so I need my apron to hold those 2 pieces together. As you can see here, there is a little bit of play in the pocket hole joinery that is going to allow for expansion and contraction. The typical way to attach the top to the base is using these figure-8 tabletop connectors. This is the method I suggest for you, especially if you have one solid top, because there's going to be some expansion and contraction. There is a separate video just for this tabletop. I will have a card up here as well as a link at the end of the video. In that video, I took precautions to prevent splitting because we got some really weird glue ups with the different angles in the long grain and the end grain. In reading the comments on that video, some people said I overdid it, and then some people said it's still not going to work and it's still going to split. Some people said it in a nice way, some people said it in a mean way. We shadow blocked the people that were mean about it, but the people that were trying to give me good pointers and said it in a very nice way, they could be right. I don't think I'm going to have any issues, but this is experimental. We have end grain gluing up against long grain, even though we got dominoes in there, and then we did the breadboard and gluing. but some people still had concerns. And so this got me thinking, and I was talking this over with my wife, Kelly, and she's like, what are you gonna do if it does split? And I was just like, I'm gonna fix it. And then she's like, yeah, problem solved. So that's the great thing about woodworking and making stuff for ourselves. We can experiment. If something goes wrong, we can fix it. We can learn from that. And so I really think this is going to hold up for many, 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 many years. But if it doesn't, I'm just going to fix it. That's all there is to it. My favorite thing about being a woodworker is making custom pieces, and I get to experiment and I get to play, and it's a learning experience for me. I hope it's a learning experience for you as well. If you like this video, you're going to love this video and this video. So as always, be safe, have fun, stay passionate, and make something.